Imagine you want to get to know somebody and you find that first it develops from an interest, a simple interest in somebody. I'm a guy and I like a girl and I want to get to know her. It's because I like her that I want to get to know her. So that interest builds from seeing her and finding her attractive, and I just want to develop that relationship with her, and I want to build it and I want to nurture it. For something you like and something you're invested in, you want to build that relationship by being around that person, by having conversations with that person, by spending time with that person, by being in the same environment with that person, by breathing the same air with that person. It gets so overwhelming to a point that you just want to be in each other's skin, right? That's when it gets really deep and you guys are in a consensual relationship, right? Now imagine that being God, that person being God. You develop that relationship to a point where you want to spend time every single day with God. You want to be in church, you want to hear the gospel, and you hear people say they read the scriptures every single day, they open their Bible, they read more. People seek knowledge for different reasons, right? But if you want to develop a relationship, and that's the basis of you committing to having that relationship with God, listening to the gospel every day. For instance, I'm Catholic, right? I'm going to Mass every day, participating in the sacraments and the Eucharist and listening to the gospel improves that relationship. And it's coming from the need to want to build a relationship with God because I want to know him. And knowing someone from the part of spending time with them and nurturing that relationship, the ultimate goal is just so that you can understand them well enough to know their likes, their dislikes, understand their personality. And it's very interesting. That personality matter is something I want to take on another day. But understanding the personality of God, I mean, you hear the saying that God made us in his image and likeness. It's beyond what you hear. It's beyond the physicality of it. I mean, we look like God. Sometimes you try to fathom it. It's probably it boggles your mind, but like I said, it's a matter for another day. We can never completely know God in this life or the next, but we just want to have faith and develop it and just be with him and spend time with him. But I digress. The point of this is, from as long as I can remember, I've been saying to people that I want to live this life. I want to go meet God empty. I want to exhaust all the talents that he has blessed me with. And it struck me today because for a couple of months, I've been blessed with the opportunity to spend time with him and go attend Mass, daily Mass, hear the scriptures. By virtue of the fact that you attend Mass, obviously you hear the readings, you hear the gospel, you hear the sermon. So every day is about something else. For instance, today was about the talents. How the master gave one 5 talents, gave the other 2 talents, gave the other 1 talent, right? The one he gave 5 talents went immediately invested it and got 5 more. The one that I gave 2 invested as well and got 2 more. So the one that got 5 invested and got 10. The one I gave 2 invested and got 4. And the one I gave 1 said, oh, the master is shrewd and everything, put it in the bank and it yielded interest and took the interest and gave the master back the 1. So that one, he sent him out into the darkness where they'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Collected what he gave to that one and used it to add to the ones that had multiplied theirs or, doubled theirs. The point of this is when we are born, and I've been thinking about this for as long as I can remember, how it is that I want to exhaust all the talents God has blessed me with. But ultimately, the goal is to make heaven. The goal is to get back to him and tell him, Father, you've given me these gifts, these talents, this is what I've used them for. But he also said in the scriptures, especially from today's gospel, that he gives you one. If you use the talent, use it up effectively, he'll give you more. Just from the example of the gospel today, the one that he gave 5 and doubled it, he gave him more, took from the other that didn't use it and gave it to him. So it was today that it really became so clear to me that on our journey to heaven, one of the ultimate goals is to actually use up our talents for the glory of God. But today it became so clear for me to understand deeper that in my journey through life, I have different talents that I've recognized. Sometimes it gets blurry, but how you recognize your God-given talent is something you do that gives you joy, something you can do for free, something you can do in your sleep, something that gives you pleasure, that when you do it, when you start doing it, you feel like you're flying on wings, you feel like you're breathing easy, you get joy, you derive so much pleasure in doing that thing. That's a strong indicator that that's God's given talent to you. And so if you use it, you'd realize that it now multiplies into something else beyond even it's multiplied by itself, but God gives you something else, gets you to realize or recognize some other things. Most of the time you don't recognize it by yourself, but he speaks through people to point those talents out to you. Some areas that might seem like you're venturing into a different profession or you're developing a different talent that might or might not be related to what you were doing. Personal example, I started life, broadcast journalism was something I gained interest while I was an undergraduate and I was studying mathematics and computer science. I still love tech, I still love maths, I still love computers, but I loved radio and I started, venturing into radio as an undergraduate and interned in a radio station. For 3 years, I was virtually paid nothing, right? For 3 years before I got a paid job as a radio personality. That was back then, 2005 to 2009. So back in the day, I was doing it for free and I loved it and I enjoyed it. At the time, I didn't think it was a talent. I wasn't even thinking as deep. I just knew that I was loving my life and I enjoyed what I was doing, even if I wasn't paid. You know, when you try to get a child to stop doing something that they find pleasure in, that they love, that makes them feel free, they'll always rebel and go back to that thing. Sometimes as parents, we don't recognize that when children are doing things that they love, there's a potential in that. The first question my dad asked me when he knew I was working on radio was, is it a pensionable job? He was coming from a good place because he wanted to be sure that I had social security. I could earn a living from it. And it wasn't something that I was dabbling into that would be a waste of my time. He wanted the best for his son, so God bless him. But then it was something I loved, and now I'm realizing that was one of my first talents that God blessed me with, and I started using it. Now, later in life, as a radio presenter or broadcaster, people started telling me, oh, you should be on TV. Now, remember that, first of all, I'm naturally shy. It may not seem that way now, but just follow my journey. I started as a radio presenter. It was easy for me to be behind the mic. Nobody could see my face. But it came from a place of loving to communicate with people. I loved to communicate, impact people's lives virtually and everything. Just talk with people. That gave me so much pleasure and so much joy. Like I would sleep in my dream, I would be on radio and everything. I'll wake up, I'll go back to radio. That was ultimate for me. I was living the life. Right? And then when people started saying, Val, you should be on TV and everything, I was just like, oh my God, really? I'm a radio presenter. No, I'm not going to be on TV. Don't forget I'm shy. I'm never going to do that. Nope, that's not me. Never. But then now I'm thinking about it, especially reflecting on today's gospel. Imagine Moses, when God called him and said he should go and get the Israelites from the hands of Pharaoh and take them to the promised land. The first thing that Moses focused on was his weakness. And says, oh, I'm a stutterer, I'm a stammerer, I can't communicate very well. How do you want me to go and speak in front of a king as big as Pharaoh and convince him to release Israelites that have been there in bondage for 40 plus years? He thought it was crazy, but God qualifies your weakness to promote his goal and just achieve the results or his desired results. He doesn't pick the one that everybody thinks is the ultimate person, like this is the person that God should choose. No, he confounds the foolishness of man and makes it work in his favor. And this is me paraphrasing, but anyway, you get the gist. Now then I was thinking, I was focusing on my weakness. It's like, I'm shy. Long and short of the story, who's an actor now? Me. That's a talent I didn't start up recognizing, but it had to go on radio. I had to be on radio for people to see, for God to use people to come and tell me that you need to act. I'm not as successful as, I would expect to be yet. I'm still on that journey. How many years have I been acting? So this is just the beginning, but I'm enjoying acting. That's another talent I never started off recognizing that I had. And then from acting, I'm now a lecturer, an adjunct lecturer at the Pan-Atlantic University, one of the foremost Nigerian universities and one of the best in the world, arguably. Teaching what? Photojournalism. Photography is something that I took on about 4 or 5 years ago as a hobby. Something I saw one day and I realized, oh my God, I love taking pictures from the love of capturing people's emotions and still the communication, still interest in humans and everything. You see where I'm going with this? Took courses, went through that professional route, got cameras and started learning. And now people pay me as a photographer and for paid gigs and everything. But it's something I love and I could do for free. Talent number 3. Broadcast, photography, acting. And then this lecture, teaching, right? Impacting people, teaching and everything. Given that I'm getting paid for these things, but the ultimate goal for me wasn't. At the time, it seemed nice that, oh yes, first of all, there was a pleasurable part of it, even recognizing that this is a God-given talent. It comes from when you find yourself feeling liberated from doing those things, feeling happy and you're excited when you do these things. And then the payment part of it is just a perk. It became clearer today after this gospel, after listening to the sermon and reading the scriptures at Mass. I'm excited because I never imagined that I'll see myself one day being that person who is fortunate enough to be blessed by God with these extra talents on top of the one that I was born with. So when you think about it, really, you have to use up the talent that God has given you for Him to add more to you. You can't just sit aloof. See, forget all the things I know how to do and everything. I still feel less than capable. I still feel like I haven't scratched the surface. I still feel like I'm being very selfish in using up this talent, and I want to use it more for good. I'm still figuring it out. But the message I'm trying to pass across is, from today's gospel, it became very clear to me that you cannot just keep that talent buried. You have to use it for God to bless you with. And for God to bless you with more, you just can't sit aloof and assume that, oh, you know what, let me just keep that talent, and one day I go use them. One day will never come. You have to start somewhere. And the goal is heaven. And until we get there, we keep discovering more. But most importantly, find something good to do with your talents, and not just necessarily money. Money making is a selfish goal as far as I'm concerned, but just finding a way to apply it to give God the glory and bring the glory back to Him. And for the longest time, this thing I'm doing right now, speaking to you on this platform, on social media, is something I've been shying away from. And I want to do it more. Content creation. I can teach from now till tomorrow, until whenever, about content creation. But for me to wake up and now open my phone, open my camera to record this, to do it, has been something that I've been mulling over for a long time. And I've been like, no, man. Who's going to stand in front of the camera? Come on, man. Dude, you're too old for this. And blah, blah, blah. And if you're there thinking, you're watching me and thinking, oh, I'm too old for this. Oh, why will I open the camera and start talking? Who will listen to me? Well, some people would say, you're English, you're not speaking good grammar. Some people will question the way you look. Some people will question your environment. You don't have good... There are 1,000,001 excuses for why you shouldn't use your talents. The time to start is now. The goal is heaven. Let's just keep doing. Let's just keep, failing forward. As far as you're happy, once it gives you pleasure and it gives you peace, do it.